Welcome to Monday Night Movie Talk with yours truly, the MovieDude Eric. I know that's a little late for my show. I had a guest lined up. Unfortunately, that fell through, although we are going to reschedule for that at a later time. So, this episode, I decided that I would take an opportunity to kind of reflect on and kind of enhance an episode that I did, one of the first episodes that I did back in January on the Spider-Verse. And on this one, I'm going to kind of look at the same perspective when it comes to the other massive superhero film that has come out most recently, which of course is The Batman. I'm going to go into why I think that Batman, as a character, has a little bit more to offer than most of the MCU, which I know is fighting words, and we'll go into that in just a little bit. But before we get into all of that insanity, and on top of that, I do want to kind of also bring up a few things about the Oscars that are coming up later on this month. And I did get a chance to see some of the animated and the live action shorts for the Oscars, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But first, I think it's time for us to go ahead and get into that thing that we call the weekly rundown. All right, so let's start off by talking about the big movie of the weekend, The Batman. Now, I got a chance to see this last Tuesday as part of the fan event that took place. I saw this in the IMAX screening, one of the first people to get a chance to see it that didn't have press passes and stuff like that. And I got to see it in a packed theater that was super excited about this particular film. And Matt Reeves is a director that I've been following since Cloverfield was the first real movie that I paid attention to him. I did see The Pallbearer. Of course, I'm a huge fan of his Planet of the Apes films, and I also loved Let Me In, his take on Let the Right One In, which I talked about in a podcast on my show Art House Legends. If you go back to that particular episode, I talk more about that. When I heard that Robert Pattinson was going to take over as the Batman, I honestly felt that he was a good fit. That he was in that same vein as like Christian Bale and Michael Keaton. Well, I guess Michael Keaton and all that. We'll talk more about that when we get into more of a rundown of the Batman. But I definitely got the Christian Bale vibes. I was super excited when Christian Bale was announced for Batman for the Christopher Nolan series. And so I was also pretty excited about Robert Pattinson taking this on because I had seen his non-Twilight work, and I knew that he was an actor who would bring something, I don't want to say super dark, but definitely he would give it an edge that I thought that Batman really needed. Calling it The Batman, again, it's kind of one of those things that right now it seems that they have to differentiate the different types of Batman, which kind of goes into the comic vein. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. But for this particular film, I will say that this is one of the most intense Batman films that I've ever seen. And I am comparing it in the same vein as like The Dark Knight, as in Batman 87. Those films definitely had an edge to it. Batman Returns definitely had an edge to it. This is in that same vein, although I will say that there's something unique about this version of the Batman that I really appreciated, which was that it wasn't trying to emulate what the other comic book movies were doing, but instead decided that it was going to go in a more grittier, more I don't want to say realistic, especially it's like a couple of scenes definitely not realistic, but that kind of intensity that I feel comes with like 70s films. That there's a 70s vibe that comes with this particular film. And Matt Reeves does a great job of bringing out that hard noir. And unlike the response that I had with, let's say, Batman v Superman, where I came out of that movie thinking that, it was kind of okay, but the more I thought about it over the course of the days and weeks after, I thought that movie sucked, and that I actually got to a point where I actually hated Batman v Superman. The Batman actually was the opposite. I came out of that thinking, well, this is pretty good. But the more I think about it, the more that it sticks in my head, the more that I I feel like the vibe of what Batman's going for, that hard, gritty 70s kind of, swollen fist from all the punching kind of vibe that I'm getting off of this, plus the kind of 90s serial killer craze type thing where you have like a 8mm type thing going off here. There's a lot going on in this movie. It is over 3 hours long, and I'd seen this just less than a week than I'd seen The Godfather, which I talked about on a later episode, or an earlier episode. And could this be trimmed down? Probably. You probably could say that the Batman could be trimmed down. Honestly, personally, I wouldn't want to. Every scene felt like there was something going on that was very important. Character dynamics, relationships are very important. This is the first Batman that you get the sense that the Batman can't do this on his own. That he is only as strong as the people around him. And I think that that's a kind of that's actually a very interesting take on it. That you have characters like Catwoman, even the Penguin to an extent helps out the Bat. Gordon plays a large and integral part, of course, with one of my favorite character actors, Jeffrey Wright, playing Gordon. I'm super happy and excited about that, and he does a great job with this character. I know that they're going to be making sequels off of this, and I would love to see Gordon get some more character development, and I know that Jeffrey Wright would definitely be able to get that part of it down. I also think that Zoe Kravitz does a great job as Catwoman. Paul Dano, wow, he actually elevated the Riddler in a great deal, in kind of being able to do that thing that Paul Dano does very well, which is he's so intense and he makes his enigma intense, considering that 95% of his presence is hidden behind a mask. All you really have are his eyes, and that really works out well for Paul Dano, being able to use his eyes the way that he does. And I cannot say enough great things about this. If there is one thing that may or may not be a growth, something to grow on, or I don't want to really call it a complaint, because I don't think it was really meant for this. It doesn't have a whole lot in the sense of hidden things that make rewatching rewarding, and I feel like when it comes to noir, having those little Easter eggs, things that you don't notice on the first time around, but that you'll notice on second and third screenings, having more of them definitely allows for some, kind of picking up on clues, especially considering that the Riddler is all about clues. I feel like there could have been for some more of those. That said, maybe they were just super, super hidden. In that sense, I might have to be looking around. I'm just concerned that the clues and the little riddles and stuff, that they're adding for extra enjoyment are meant to be more augmented reality and more outside of the film itself, I think clues inside the film would have been a lot better. Um, but outside of that, the noir aspects definitely come through. Color scheme is amazing. I love the fact that uh, that a sizable amount of this film takes place in the daytime. And one thing that I really appreciated about this Batman over other Batman is the fact that Bruce Wayne in this film is really a disguise for Batman. And you really get that vibe. Like, Batman will use Bruce Wayne in order to open doors that he himself can't open without punching a fist through him. And to me, that is really awesome. Especially when you see how Batman will go into a situation and people respond a certain way, and then you see Bruce Wayne go into that same situation and they react a completely different way. And you can see how Bruce Wayne is a tool that Batman can use. There is one thing that I would have liked with the ending, considering that they kind of set it up. Maybe it's one of those things that they're going to aim for when it comes to later films, and you know, that they might be going for a goal that they intend to achieve at the end of this series. I don't know. We'll see how it gets there, but I won't spoil it right now. I feel like that might be for a different episode, or perhaps maybe kind of a more of a spoilers type of thing that I might record later on. But the Batman is an incredible film. I really enjoy it. Definitely recommend it if you haven't already seen it. I'm definitely going to be seeing it a few more times in theaters before it leaves. Much more so than I felt about Spider-Man No Way Home, which we'll talk a little bit more about later on. But it is, as you can tell, I just absolutely love this film. Alright, so next up, let's talk about a film that I was really surprised that that was even a thing to be coming out. When I saw this poster about a month ago, and I thought maybe it was like some sort of parody or something like that, but no. Studio 666 is in fact a horror film with the Foo Fighters. There is some comedy involved, but I feel that this thing has it definitely homages to other horror films, some very overt, some less overt. That said, there is definitely an Evil Dead vibe going throughout this entire film, where they're merging the horror and comedy. One after the other. You'll have one kind of scary thing take place, and then maybe not really too scary. It's not really a scary movie, but kind of a disturbing thing that takes place, and then it comes with a laugh thing, and it kind of jumps back and forth between trying to go for horror to comedy, which I thought did very well, especially considering that you really get to know the band and get to like the band outside of Dave Grohl in a way that I thought was very fun and charming, and that you actually wanted to spend time with these guys, even with all the craziness and insanity that was going on. That said, it is a little too long. It goes for a final twist that it didn't need. It honestly should have ended at a particular scene, and when you watch the film, you'll know exactly which scene where it should have just ended. But at the same time, I just really enjoyed it. It's a schlocky, goofy, tongue-in-cheek kind of film, but at the same time, it does have some. It definitely. I'm really impressed by the practical effects that we got with this film, especially some of the over-the-top kill scenes that we get. Again, there's a definite Evil Dead vibe going on. And if they decide, if the Foo Fighters decide that they're going to do another horror film, seriously doubt it. I feel like this is a one and done type of thing. But if they do, I would be down for it. I would definitely go and watch it. I feel like this is also a movie that would do well as a cult classic type of thing. Midnight screenings, I feel like this is designed for that. Not so much the release that it had going into theaters the way it did. This should have easily been a midnight screening thing. This just it really just does the midnight thing all together. So I really thought they did a good job on that. Studio 666, not for everyone, but I really got down. I really got behind it. All right, so just yesterday, I got a chance to see the 2022 Oscar-nominated short films for live action and animation, and I wanted to kind of throw some of my thoughts on this specifically. There are quite a few that were not very memorable, so to say. That said, there were some that really got to me and that really made me think. So, for of the five, I'm going to go with live action first, and then I'll talk about animation in just a bit. The live action films, one was called On My Mind, which is kind of a romantic, kind of sad. It definitely has that kind of, how do I put this? Bittersweet aspect to it, where inside this bar you have this man who wants to sing a song for his wife who's not there. When you find out what is going on, you kind of know that that was the case. That said, it definitely did get a lump in my throat when we got to the end, and so I can really appreciate that. The second short that came out was one called Please Hold, which is, in my opinion, second-rate Black Mirror. It's kind of a take on the criminal justice system, where via the way of Kafka, a man gets arrested via drone, which is kind of funny, and is put through the criminal justice system in a very haphazard way, where he doesn't ever talk to another human being throughout the entire process. It's all done through automation, with all the craziness and insanity that come through it. It's definitely trying to make a point about how the criminal justice system doesn't care for people, that it's designed specifically just to self-perpetuate, and that those that are caught up into the criminal justice system don't get it very well. And in a way, it does that relatively decently. Although using drones and stuff like that is more meant to, I don't know, just again, that whole Black Mirror vibe just kind of comes through, so I really just didn't mesh that well with it, but okay. The next film that came out was a Polish film called The Dress, with a short actress who is kind of never had a relation with or a romantic relation, and who kind of gets the eye of a truck driver who stops by her work, and what goes on is kind of endearing, and in fact, it kind of feels a little bit like one of those Richard Linklater type of character romances, which I thought was really kind of cool. And then it totally shits the bed at the end, and the ending, it feels like the ending was just a complete mess for the sake of making an Oscar nominated film. And I asked myself if it would have gone with the ending that it felt like it was earning at that particular point. Would this have been nominated for an Oscar? And to me, that's something that I'm starting to think a little bit more about as I'm getting, um, I've had a few Oscars under my belt. I'm definitely looking forward to this year's awards, uh, but this really kind of made me think, like, what is it that the Academy is looking for when it comes to these shorts? What's the thing that they were aiming for? And especially this year when it came to the shorts, unlike the Best Picture nominees, which had a record amount of comedies and lighthearted fare, uh, the shorts are, for the most part, pretty dark and risky. Um, Including one of my favorites. I don't want to say my favorite. There's a lot of problems with it, but the one that I would vote for is one called Take and Run, which is a Swiss film uh, set in Kyrgyzstan about a young woman who has the dreams of going to college, and as those dreams are about to come true, she gets kidnapped and forced into a marriage in this village, away from everyone that she knows, and it's frustrating. It's angry, or I should say, it makes me angry, and I think it was intended to do that. Uh, but at the same time, it's extremely well shot. It's gorgeous. A lot of that has to do with the settings that they use for the film. They do a great job at it, and I think it just did a great job all the way around. There was another short with Riz Ahmed, which the less I say, the happier I would be, because it was self indulgent. It was meant to be more of a showcase to Riz Ahmed's uh, I don't know, slam poetry, hip hop cred, but it just did come off as self indulgent. And in my opinion, it seems like it's only nominated because it's got Riz Ahmed in it, which again, Sound of Metal was really good last year. We didn't need this. For the animated features, uh, I will say I was surprised when I went to get my tickets for them and it came up as NC-17. All the other prior years have been PG. And the reason why it's NC-17 is because 3 of the 5 nominated animated features uh, dealt with adult themes, had very adult language, very adult sexual connotations, and including one that is one of the most disturbing films that I've seen in a very long time. But it starts off with the Aardman short that you can find on Netflix called Robin Robin. Very cute, very sweet. If you love Aardman animation, this thing is definitely in your wheelhouse, and I would strongly recommend it. I love Aardman, and I look forward to anything that Aardman does, and Robin Robin definitely holds up on that. And there are little Easter eggs throughout the film that I thought that just really kind of did a great job of making this as charming and as sweet as it is. The next one is called um, Box Ballerina, which is a Russian animated feature about a boxer who falls in love with a ballerina, a Russian ballerina, and it's kind of sweet. It's kind of zany. It's kind of, I don't want to say disturbing, but it definitely it's definitely going for kind of a romantic comedy aspects to it. The animation I thought was really kind of unique, and so it definitely got that down pretty awesome. Um, that said, it also is very difficult for me to uh, enjoy anything coming from Russia at this particular point. I know artists are artists, but um, there's definitely some, um, let's just say, there's some heavy Russian influences that we're definitely seeing here, and on top of that, the ending does kind of, in a way, I guess you could say that the ending of Box Ballerina uh, is the kind of the ending that I feel like the dress might have done better with having, if I may say so. The next one that honestly, the one that I would kind of in my heart of hearts really want uh, to win is this British animated film uh, called. Let's see, I think it's not for the sake of art, but uh, anyway, it's basically this woman who's recounting her life through uh, the insanity involving her sister and her, and the kind of the obsessions that take place in her family. Her sister's obsessions, her son's obsessions, uh, and it's very. There's a definitely there's a huge British vibe that goes through this and British comedy aspects to it. It is very naughty, but at the same time, it's naughty in kind of a heartfelt, kind of joyful way. It's one of the more lighter films that came out or that were in contention for short feature, and but there is a great deal of nudity. There are a couple of disturbing scenes that might uh, that might kind of get a little hot on the collar. Uh, that said, I find it to be a unique and interesting take. I love how the narrative kind of flows between the three characters. How you kind of see the story that is being told with these three uh, through the three characters through the perspective of one person. I always love perspective when it comes to features, and this definitely had that. That said, though, where you might think that that's the disturbing one, it has nothing on the film from Chile called Bestia, which is one of the most disturbing films I've ever seen in my life. Bestia is a film about a woman who is part of the Chilean secret police in the 70s, who, along with her dog, uh, tortures and murders dissidents in Chile. And it's done with these kind of ceramic figurines with certain padding in places. It insinuates a lot of disturbing stuff, stuff I can't even mention on this without getting some sort of strike, because it is disturbing, to say the least. That said, it's one of those shorts that is going to stay in your head. It's going to make you think, and especially when you find out that this is based on a true story, that it's not telling a one-to-one account of this person's life, but it's kind of let's just say, an interpretation of that life, including insinuations regarding her and her dog that, needless to say, could be traumatizing to anyone who is not prepared for those types of insinuations. That said, I would not be too totally upset if this thing won, just because it is strong art, and strong art should make strong feelings, and this definitely got strong feelings out of me. The final one, the final film is it's a Spanish film, but it's kind of it feels kind of like a throwback to 1960s new wave cinema of France. Basically, it's a vignette of people talking about what love means and kind of the emotions that come from love, and losing love and gaining love and having love change and evolve. Pretentious, absolutely. That said, the animation is gorgeous, and I kind of love the different changes to the animation style compared to, depending on the type of person that's talking. That said, it's also kind of vapid, and because it's going for something what us in the South would call highfalutin, it just didn't really get there. So I don't know. They just didn't do anything for me. There might be others that find something more substantial, uh, but out of the five, that one probably is the weakest, just because of how vapid it is. All right, so at this particular point, I do want to go ahead and um, I know I have this. I have a whole lot that I really want to be talking about, but at the same time, as you can tell, I'm a little tired. Um, and on top of that, I kind of was prepared for a whole different show, and so I kind of threw this thing together at the very last minute. So um, I just want to just make. I just want to say thank you to everyone who is sticking with us throughout the show, who are giving us an opportunity to talk and to be a part of that conversation when it comes to film. Um, and I'm proud to be here, proud to be giving you this show, um, and hopefully getting more conversation going on about film, which is the real goal of what Monday Night Movie Talk is all about. So, again, I'm just gonna throw it out there. If you're interested in conversing about these things that we're talking about, please feel free to throw anything in the chat. Um, if you want to, just send. If you want to send some feedback, you can do so at arthouse@gmail.com. You can also hit me up on Twitter at MovieDude_Eric, where you can find me. Uh, there's going to be some. I'm going to be making a few more changes to the show moving forward. Uh, but any kind of feedback to kind of see what's working, what isn't, uh, always something that I'm very appreciative. All right, so let's go ahead and let's talk about the Academy. I just mentioned how the Academy has been uh, making some changes to its routine. Uh, because of ABC mandates, ABC is the television company that is airing the Oscars. To ensure that it fits the time frame that they want for the Academy Awards, mainly that they just don't want it to run over into local affiliate time. Um, they want the awards to be over a specific time, and they wanted some cuts of specific uh, Oscar or certain awards were going to be done before the ceremonies, and then their uh, speeches are going to be cut the actual into the actual simulcast. Some of those are things like the shorts that we just talked about, production design, costume design, I think is one. Um, these are the technical awards. These are the ones that I am a little disappointed that they are not putting out there, because in my opinion, I am not interested in I'm really not interested in kind of the stars and the gowns and the stuff like that. I know that a lot of people are, and I know those are the ones that are probably are the ones that the ABC is specifically interested in getting to watch the show. Uh, but for me, I watch the Oscars because it celebrates movies, and it celebrates those people who rarely ever get a chance to um, get a chance to get their faces on television, and to have their work being appreciated by a general audience. Um, that said, I understand why ABC requires the Oscars to do what they did. In fact, they asked for something a lot more. This was a compromise between the Academy and ABC. But at the same time, I feel that those individuals, especially I believe editing is another one, that it's bad. It's a bad idea to not respect and not show just how incredible these particular jobs are, because you don't know who might be the next person to decide that this might be the kind of work that they want to do. And I want to see more people appreciate the technical skill and ability that these individuals do, especially when you see that work, being kind of put in front of you, seeing the costume design, seeing the things that people take for granted when they're watching the film because they get immersed into the experience. Editing is a very important skill. It's one of the most important things when it comes to a film. And I feel like those individuals need to get a chance to shine. And while they say that they're going to be intercutting the acceptance speeches, we all know that they're going to take maybe 2 or 3 lines of the acceptance speech, maybe even just the words "thank you," and then just move on. Just so that we can get another shot of J-Lo, another, another throwaway to the host and stuff like that. And while there's nothing wrong with that, I don't know, just part of me would have loved to have seen them get that award, to see their work getting recognized. I would be okay if the Academy and ABC even did maybe even a live stream for people who wanted to see that earlier thing. I would also be happy to see the technical awards if they would live stream the technical awards. I think that would be a great way to recognize those. There's so much that the Academy and that ABC could do, especially in the age of the internet, where you could have it both ways, where you could allow the film fanatics such as myself getting those little extras, while at the same time for the simulcast, the big one, at that point you can turn that into a celeb fest so that you can ogle over all the different gowns and dresses and tuxes that everyone's wearing, if that's your thing. But for me, I would love to see some recognition of the technical skill, and I want to appreciate and kind of be there to to see them win those awards for those categories that I'm deeply excited about. But at this point, I know that you are not here for the Oscars and talking about Oscars. I know that you're here because I made an inflammatory comment about a certain superhero character and a certain... I didn't say something inflammatory about this certain superhero character, but more specifically that that superhero character is getting a little bit more attention and it seems to have a lot more popularity than a certain than a certain brand of superhero movie that has been going on for as long as it has. And so I feel like it is time for me to bring to just go ahead and address this really, I don't want to say really quickly because I want to go into detail, but let's talk about why does Batman beat Marvel. Now, of course, Marvel has a whole bunch of movies under its belt. It's made billions and billions, and I wouldn't be surprised. It might have even already gotten into the trillions. If not, it will at some particular point, no doubt. But when it comes to quality, Batman, when it's on fire, really knows how to do it right. And I think that there's some takeaways that Marvel could learn from how Batman has been able to single-handedly resist and fight against how Marvel has been making its movies and how it has been able to do so through reinterpretation, through using artistic, I don't want to say artistic license, but using an artist's vision in order to have a unique take on a particular character, and especially as many times as it's been reinterpreted by different filmmakers and different actors. Whereas with MCU, all of them feel like they are part of one same universe, which in itself is not a bad thing. I don't want to make it out that what the Marvel is doing is bad. What it is, though, is that it doesn't have an identity outside of the universe. The closest that it's ever gotten would be James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy movies and Taika Waititi's Thor Ragnarok. All the other films, and even to an extent you could feel like those particular films as well have to feel like they're a part of that same universe. And whereas Batman and how Batman has been reinterpreted seems to buck this entire trend, and why I think that DC has found found a way to compete with Marvel through using Batman as an example. And so I want to take this time to really really contemplate and really think out. And I want you to go along with me on this particular ride, because Batman over the since 1987 has gone through reinventions not once but 5 different times. From Tim Burton taking to kind of the super edgy, super dark Batman and Batman Returns, using his, kind of going with a very goth, you put in the goth into Gotham type of vibe that it's going for. Then having Joel Schumacher step in, primarily because, Happy Meal sales were down from Batman Returns, and there was concern about this superhero character that was meant for kids being a little bit too edgy, and so they wanted to kind of bring back the fun and charm. So you had Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, which went way onto the other side of that spectrum. Batman and Robin, obviously, not very good, and I would never in a million years call Batman and Robin a good film, but at the same time, especially if you see it from the perspective of lighthearted, camp, pulling and embracing kind of the sillier aspects of the Batman franchise, in order to get something very unique and very operatic, I guess is the best way to put it, especially when you take into account Elliot Goldenthal's scores for the Schumacher films, in comparison to, say, the work of Danny Elfman, and then of course you had Christopher Nolan come in with his Dark Knight trilogy. I don't think it was ever intended to be a trilogy, but I think that it works specifically as a trilogy. And honestly, when it comes to Batman, when it comes to me personally as Batman, the Dark Knight trilogy is the perfect Batman for me. I'm so happy with the Batman trilogy being the way it is, that you can do whatever you want with the Batman, and I don't get personally upset because this particular version is the one that really speaks out to me. As someone who enjoys film, who enjoys what Christopher Nolan has done with this particular character and the psychology that this film brings in. But of course, after Nolan stepped away and we got the DCEU, and them trying to launch this DCEU with Superman and Batman, and kind of doing that in a way to kind of do a course correction from the miscalculation of the Man of Steel, only to fail spectacularly in the process and nearly destroy the DC properties that that Warner Brothers had under them. Uh, but at the same time, that particular Batman was different from the other types of Batman. This was a Batman that was more embracing of violence and murder to an extent, um, whose moral guideposts are very skewed. That the honorable code that you kind of would see with the other Batman performances, even up to Elliot. Sorry, not Elliot. Adam West uh, came through, and so and on top of that, you kind of got the sense that, especially with Zack Snyder's um, embracing of certain elements of Friedrich Nietzsche's philosophy and Ayn Randian uh, overtones that come through with a lot of his particular films. You can definitely feel it in his take on the Batman specifically, as this man who has trained himself in order to fight gods, who has done everything he can in order to prepare himself in order to do something unique, um, and be able to and not either fight against gods or to fight alongside them, and to be able to bring his skills into it. Um, you can definitely get that vibe from from that version of the Batman. And of course, now we have this kind of dark neo noir detective Batman, who's from the vibe that we get with this new film, that the trajectory that Bruce Wayne Batman is going to be going on this ride is finding his humanity, embracing the kind of stepping away from violence and vengeance towards being an icon of hope. The kind of thing that I was really kind of hoping for when it came to Man of Steel, if I'm being completely honest. Uh, and yet they're aiming towards that, and I really appreciate what they're going with for the Batman. But the thing is, even after this reiteration of the Batman is done, we're going to get new interpretations. We're even getting Batman in this whole DC Pets thing from Warner Animation, which is going to be a completely different view on that as well. If you look in comparison to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the MCU, and how everything has to fit this very homogenized stock universe, and characteristics kind of have to be very surface level in order to go from film to film. You're not going to get a filmmaking team, a writer, or a director who's going to reinterpret these characters. And so, even with the sake of Black Panther, especially with Ryan Coogler as director, he wasn't able to allow for Black Panther to be much more than a stock superhero, because after he's done with his own adventure, no matter what kind of storytelling growth he does in Black Panther, he's going to be just yet another fighter when it comes to Avengers. His arc is going to it's not going to transfer over from one film to another. The only time that we kind of saw that was with Captain America, to an extent, but a lot of that had to deal with the fact that the filmmakers who did those Avengers movies post Civil War were done with the Civil War directors. So they were bringing that with them to kind of completing Captain America's arc, and it came at the expense of other characters. Whereas with Batman specifically, when it comes to DC, they've embraced the fact that each reiteration of the Batman is completely different. it is interpreted by the filmmakers, by the screenwriters, by the directors, by the actors, and so each actor who takes on the role makes the character their own. Keaton's Batman is kind of he's got kind of this dry, sarcastic humor, whereas when you have Val Kilmer or George Clooney, they're kind of winking at the camera a little bit, mugging a little bit, especially Clooney. Clooney mugged like a mugger, just really going full on with it. Christian Bale brought his kind of, I mean, let's be honest here. He was American Psycho. You know, he definitely brought that kind of sociopathic aspect to it. You know, kind of this distancing between his humanity and his persona, and seeing what it does to the psyche, and going into the psychology of what this kind of superhero would, or this persona would have on a human being. We mentioned kind of Zack Snyder and his Nietzschean aspects when it comes to Batman, and so you do see that through there, and especially in the forms of the DCEU, he had to be a little bit more godlike in the sense of being able to fight with gods, whereas the other Batman did not have to worry about that. Nor does it look like this Batman that Robert Pattinson is playing is going to have to deal with that as well. I know that they're discussing having possibly Mr. Freeze be the next villain. That could be interesting. Honestly, I'd be more interested in maybe Bane or someone a little bit more closer to the gritty 70s reality that we got with the Batman. I feel like adding too much science fiction or too much fantasy into this would break that kind of 70s grit feel that we got with this. Although if there's anyone that could do it, Matt Reeves, I would trust, would be able to find a way to bring Mr. Freeze down to Earth, so to say. Although it would also be kind of cool to have like Victor Zsasz, Calendar Man, the detective type ventriloquist. Those are all kind of characters I think that they could have they could do something with. Scarecrow, I would love to see another reiteration of Scarecrow, especially since they kind of set certain things up with this new drug that's in Gotham when it comes to the Batman. I think that they could do something with that with the Scarecrow. I think he would make for a great thing. Maybe you can find something to do with Harvey Two-Face, I think. Here, especially like in today's political climate, I think that Harvey Two-Face could be an interesting take on the justice system. So there are, there are things that this Batman can do, and as I mentioned before, and I didn't even mention like the Lego Batman, or the animated series Batman, which is considered to be one of the greatest Batman of all time, or Adam West for that matter. Batman is not constrained to one particular universe. He lives in all different universes, and it's one of those that I know that we're going to be getting Keaton Batman in the Flash, so it'll be interesting to see how those two universes collide specifically, but at the same time, these universes are still separate from one another. They don't play well together. You can probably make them fit a little bit, but at the end of the day, someone else is going to come around, and they're going to do a different version of it. And I think that this is something that Marvel really needs to think about and really needs to take into account moving forward, because they're going to get bogged down in their MCU. They're going to find themselves expanding, kind of being constrained the further that they expand out. I know that they are talking about no more Avengers films. I don't see that being the case. We're going to get more Avengers films. Although it is going to be interesting to see what take that they're going to go with it. especially if they're adding in more of these TV shows. They're adding in more of these new characters. I'm definitely curious to see what they do with Ironheart and Riri Williams. I'm definitely interested to see uh, how America is going to play in when it comes to Doctor Strange. Uh, I see the possibilities, but at the same time, the fact that everything has to fit into this one universe, and they are already kind of mangling it to keep everything in this one universe, is something I feel like it's going to buckle under its own weight eventually if they don't find a way to allow for reinterpretation, and if they don't find a way to allow for directors and writers to step away from the MCU and do films that are one-offs and alternate universes and alternate realities that are not tied into the MCU. But again, maybe the audiences won't go with that. Maybe the audiences kind of expect it's kind of like fast food in that sense. It's it's familiar, it's comforting because you have been invested for so long. But at the same time, sometimes it's nice to be pleasantly surprised. And there are some films that are coming up in the MCU that might be able to do it. That said, none of them are Batman. And Batman, as we are showing, does have a unique advantage, and one that I think serves it well, and that Warner Brothers and DC have utilized, and I think it would be great if they utilize it with their other superheroes by allowing for other reinterpretations. So that is my take. If you have a different take, by all means, please feel free to share it. Comment section, send me an email. I'm very interested in seeing what everyone's perspectives are on this. Also, if you like what you're seeing, if you want to support this show, like, share, subscribe, send it out to the internet, and let people know that we're here and we're doing something a bit different. If there's any particular subjects that you would love to be tackled onto the show, send me a message, and who knows, maybe we'll make that into a show. Maybe we'll find some guests to join us into having that conversation, or who knows, maybe you might be involved in that conversation if you're interested. But at this particular point, it is a little past my bedtime, so I am going to go ahead and leave you at this particular point. But I wanted to say thank you again so much for joining me for this Monday Night Talk. I am the MovieDude Eric, and I'll see you again next Monday.